Warning. The following podcast is utter nonsense and may cause agoraphobia, kleptomania, insomnia, and oppositional defiance disorder. We are required by law to provide you with this disclaimer for hazardous materials.
Welcome back to Hazardous Materials, and possibly our most self-indulgent episode yet, where I talk about my favorite Brave and the Bold stories, and Casey reacts to them.
Because I have no idea what we're about to talk about.
I've been keeping him in the dark about these, so your responses will be just as important as his. I'm Gideon Gonzalez, and with me as always
is Casey Johnson, and we're going to swipe a concept that we like, or at least I like. And that is one from the podcast called The Dollop, where one comedian introduces a historic thing and talks to his buddy about it, who has absolutely no idea what we're about to talk about.
And I had no idea about that concept, so...
But I did.
We're already on good terms. So, Brave and the Bold, in case you don't know, was a long-running DC title that started off as just an anthology with mostly historical things. Mm-hmm. And then at number 28, the Justice League made their first appearance. And that was the first big team-up story. And there's 3 Justice League stories. It went back to being an anthology. But with number 50, writer Bob Haney wrote a Martian Manhunter and Green Arrow team-up. And from then on, it became a team-on book.
Is it safe to say that this is the DC answer to Marvel 2-in-1?
Or
straight-up Marvel team-up?
I say, this predates those books by a considerable margin, because it started in the 60s. So after a few team-ups with varying different heroes, eventually it kind of settled into being another Batman book, where it would be Batman with another character in the DC universe, with Bob Haney tending to pick some of his more oddball favorites like Deadman or the Metal Man. And as things went along further, he got a pretty consistent creative team with Jim Aparo, who is, to me, one of the definitive Batman artists, especially after devouring almost 100 of these Brave and the Bold stories.
Is it safe to say that Brave and the Bold ran its course, and ended years before you were even born?
Oh, yeah. Like, number 200, the final issue, which by that point, Bob Haney had already left the title. Mm-hmm. But that dropped in, I believe, 81, and introduces the Outsiders. So Katana, Halo, and Geoforce all make their first appearances there. And then immediately the next month, they launch Batman and the Outsiders. Still with Jim Aparo on art, though, because he is possibly the greatest Batman artist.
I want to see that actually happened later than 81, because Batman and the Outsiders...
Might have been like 82, 83?
I want to say 85.
Oh, that seems too late, though, because the Outsiders had been established by the time Crisis happened, wasn't it?
Barely.
Yeah.
Actually, they were introduced like right beforehand.
Okay, so
and
maybe
Crisis is 85.
So maybe it did go for a bit longer then.
Because I remember I was about to date myself on this one. I remember I was in at least the double digits, as in age-wise, when I was reading Outsiders.
Oof. So, with that in mind, I recently came into possession of a almost complete run of the Brave and the Bold from 92 up through 200. There's about 20 issues missing that I don't have.
That's a lot of newspaper pulp you got
Oh,
there.
Yeah, boy. I've been chunking through like 2 or 3 a night for the last few months. And I decided to compile the 5 my favorites. And they're the most memorable, the most fun, and just the most interesting, I would say. When I think Brave and the Bold, these are the stories I think of now. I didn't want to do some of the big obvious ones like that first Justice League issue, or that first Neil Adams Green Arrow, or that first Outsiders, because I feel like you'd see those on other lists. I want to talk about the ones that just really struck me when I was reading, like, what the hell am I reading? This is amazing.
I guess we should also bring up the fact that an animated series was brought up on this very concept.
Yes.
Called Batman Brave and the Bold.
Batman the Brave and the Bold, which had a very Silver Bronze Age feel to it, with Diedrich Bader's Batman teaming up with a different DC hero every time.
Man, Aquaman. Those Aquaman episodes were the best. I love those.
So, my first entrant on my list. At number 5 is Brave and the Bold number 104 by Bob Haney and Jim Aparo. This is a Deadman team-up.
I love Deadman.
In which Batman requests Deadman special services to infiltrate a resort for criminals. And so Deadman possesses a guy who's going there.
Okay.
And then falls in love with said criminal's girlfriend. And is like, Bruce, I don't know about this plan anymore to take this guy down. Like, I kind of want to take over his life and settle down with this lady. And Bruce is like, that's pretty messed up, dead man. I wouldn't do that if I were you.
It is pretty messed up.
And so Dead Man breaks away from the plan. So now Bruce Wayne has to go infiltrate this resort for criminals.
You can't rely on a dead man.
Yeah. And things get pretty hairy, and gunplay happens because it is a resort full of not supervillains, but like mobsters and the like. And so Dead Man makes the call of, well, I love this woman and I want to be with her, but I can't be with her while her husband's still alive and she's still alive. So he lets her take a bullet, thinking that she'll become a ghost, and is then like, all right, it's me, a ghost, come on, like standing next to her dead body. And I was floored. I was just shocked that that Bob Haney would bring this to me, this nugget of the most insane dead man story ever.
That's a way to start a relationship.
Yeah. I was like, this is insanely dark. Like, he just let that woman die because he thought she'd become a ghost, because he forgot that he forgot his own origin of being selected to become a ghost.
Well, I mean, it should be noted that late 70s Batman was a bit dark.
Yeah. It's, I think, on this list, we're going to go to some pretty wild places.
Yeah, because, I mean, at the time that this was happening, DC was trying to get away from the campy Batman era of the 60s. And I guess to do that, they did what a lot of child actors do, and they just completely flipped the script.
Oh, yeah.
And Batman was suddenly drawn very dark. The Neil Adams
Yeah,
era.
exactly. Like, Neil Adams hopped off of Brave and the Bold over to the main Bat title. So that's kind of where we're going from this.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely a not necessarily a good story. I feel like I should reiterate that I'm not saying these are the greatest Brave and the Bold stories. These are my favorite, most memorable
Fun
ones.
note, Earth 2 Batman died around this time.
Yeah, Earth 2 Batman actually pops up in Brave and the Bold somewhat often.
Does he?
Yeah, number, I think, 197 is
I
a
remember
flashback
by the time I
of
was
his memory
reading
of the narrative
comics,
Catwoman.
I was reading Earth 2
Mhm.
stuff, and I always wondered, where's Batman? He got Superman, he got this Robin, he got this. And it's like, oh yeah,
He's dead.
He died of cancer in the 70s. I'm like, what?
It got wild. So yeah, Dead Man's Last Resort, a shocking tale if there ever was.
God, Dead Man, man.
Next up on my list, at the number 4 slot, is number 164, which is essentially Hawkman versus Cthulhu. This one is brought to us not by Haney and Aparo, but J.M. DeMatteis and Jose Luis Garcia Lopez.
Okay, I know that name.
Exactly. So are you familiar with JLGL?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for viewers at home who are not sure, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez is arguably the most important artist in DC's history. In the 70s, he created the style guide that was for all the characters like the Bible. Like, this is what Robin looks like. This is what Wonder Woman looks like. This is what Green Arrow looks like. But more importantly than that, he drew the licensing kits. So any kind of DC merchandise that's been made pretty much from the 70s to today, if you see anything with a classic looking art style on it that's DC merch, that's probably his art.
So that's the classic yellow oval with the Batman.
Exactly. Yeah. You've got that. Like when you see any kind of satellite era Justice League t-shirts, you look at art at like Six Flags and stuff, that's his artwork. And he still like does a lot of that kind of portfolio work for DC today.
Did he do the double W's that Wonder Woman used, or was she still doing the eagle thing at that time?
He did the double W logo.
Okay.
I don't know if he designed that necessarily, but he definitely like made it.
I remember that logo popped up right around the George Perez era.
This predates that. This is in the 70s, and she definitely had that then.
Okay.
But anyways, he didn't do a ton of interior work, so I'm always really excited when I get to crack one book and see his name. And this was the case here. I did, because you don't have the creator credits on the cover. Mm-hmm. So you just kind of like look in the first page.
No one cared about the creator credits back then. You really had to do some digging if you were going to find them.
So yeah, I look up, I see J.M. DeMatteis, and I'm like, love that guy. I see Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. I was like, oh, this is awesome. I've got some art of his now. And so the story starts with Batman and his good pal Carter Hall are overseeing some statues being moved to the museum that Carter and Shiara, aka Hawkman and Hawkgirl, work at. When it suddenly starts levitating into the sky, And they're like, whoa, that's weird. So Hawkman flies up there, and Batman takes the whirly bat, which
The whirly
bat gets a ton of play in this series. Like
Oh my
almost every
God.
other issue.
I forgot about that thing.
And so they fly up there, and they fight some suits of armor that are getting controlled by the statues. And then it turns out Hawk Girl is possessed by the statues. And she starts flying. The museum starts to fall, but she keeps going up. So Hawkman goes and swoops her.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, wait, no, they don't mean us harm. It turns out all this is being done because there are some spirits trapped in the statues who simply want to open up a portal back to their home dimension that is covered in carvings of octopi and references to a sunken city. And it's just, I love J.M. DeMatteis because he always loves putting in weird magic stuff in books.
Mm-hmm.
So he managed to work in some Cthulhu mythos to essentially like a throwaway issue. Like, not to disparage Brave and the Bold, but like they're one-off silly fun team-up stories. But he really brought his A game, made a really cool fun story where the solution wasn't we have to beat up a monster. It was, oh yeah, let's get these statues home. Let's return them. Very, very surprising for a comic from the 80s to actually be like, yeah, we should like repatriate these stolen artifacts. So A+, James DeMatteis. Really great story.
Little Lovecraftian thing there.
Exactly. And of course, gorgeous Jose Luis Garcia Lopez art. Like, the TC universe never looks better than when he's drawing it.
Now, a bit of a footnote on this. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is the H.P. Lovecraft stuff still copywritten, or is that open?
I'm fairly certain that it is in public domain.
Is it in public domain?
Because, like, I mean, Lovecraft Country exists.
So many things.
Yeah, like, there's a million different Cthulhu books.
I remember a time when that wasn't the case. Do you remember D&D? Well, you obviously don't remember D&D back then because you didn't exist. I did. But back in the early 80s, there was a book called Deities and Demigods. And this was D&D's chance to introduce mythologies into their gaming system. And they put Cthulhu in there without telling anybody that owned that copyright at that time. And it got around, and they had to withdraw all the books, destroy what they could, and reissue a new without Cthulhu in it. So now if you go on like eBay and stuff like that, you put in like Deities and Demigods.
The Cthulhu edition.
Cthulhu edition, you're going to get yourself a pricey tome.
Huh, very fun. I had no idea.
Yeah.
So my number 3 is another Dead Man team up. But this time also with special guest Sergeant Rock, who is another Bob Haney creation. So Bob Haney, who created Sergeant Rock, as I just said, would find a way to make Batman team up with that surly old World War II sergeant, no matter how many times he had to bend over backwards to make it happen.
I want to know what was so important about Sergeant Rock that DC wrote so much about him.
I think he was just a popular war character. Like, he didn't have like a weird superpower bent. He was just a good, straightforward character that they could do a lot of stuff with.
Yeah, you know, in the 80s, especially in the early 80s, DC had a lot of World War II books.
Yeah.
What was it? Our Boys in Arms?
It was like our Army at War.
Our Army at War. Haunted Tank.
Weird war stories.
Weird war stories, which is where Haunted Tank was
Yeah.
in. Enemy Ace.
Yeah. A lot of war books in DC.
And of course, Sergeant Rock.
But yeah. So, in this story, Batman's investigating a string of arsons being committed by someone using the name Lucifer. And meanwhile, over in England, Sergeant Rock is escorting a Batman statue that's supposed to be a gift to some foreign dignitary.
Well, let me ask you, though, is he wearing the normal Sergeant Rock attire?
He's not. Rock in a lot of these stories is like, I don't even think he's a sergeant anymore. He's obviously not active duty.
Oh, is this modern era?
Yeah. He's
because that's right, because Brave and the Bold was so close to World War II at that time that it was really
you could have a middle-aged Rock and it worked.
Yeah.
So he and Easy Company are escorting this statue that, unbeknownst to them, here's where things get nuts. So the arson using the name Lucifer is in an actual worships the capital D devil cult. And the devil does a voodoo doll on the Batman statue So whatever happens to the Batman statue will happen to Batman.
Okay.
So things like the thing like falls off a truck and Batman's like, "Ooh, my head," or like it falls underwater and it's heavy, so Batman slips on a pier and is like, "Oh, I'm drowning."
This is Weekend at Bernie's 2 all over again.
But he has a secret ally, because Deadman gets told by his spirit guide. I can never remember what the character's name is, but who shows up and is like, "Deadman, you have to save Batman and stop the devil." And he's like, "Well, I don't know the first thing about this Lucifer nonsense." So he talks to the ghost of Sherlock Holmes, who goes to give Batman clues in America, while Deadman is, Weekend at Bernie's-ing Easy Company to protect this Batman statue as it's like falling, like Mr. Magooing its way through different perils as the devil's like trying to set the statue on fire. And yeah, eventually Sherlock Holmes gives Batman the clue he needs to bust the arsonist.
Mm-hmm.
And Deadman's able to get Rock to bust the cult in Britain and get the curse lifted off the Batman statue. So Batman's okay. And this is a story that could not be contained in a regular issue of Brave and the Bold. It's a double-length story, because obviously it's got a lot of moving parts in it and a lot of sequences of Deadman possessing different people and beating Sherlock Holmes. And it's in a DC special number 8, Brave and the Bold. It was a pain in the ass to try and put it into my comic system because it wasn't popping up under the Brave and the Bold. So I had to like just look up DC and scroll through every option to find it.
Oh, jeez.
But it's and I didn't even like buy it. It was something that I basically just found like in a donation pile, and I was like, "Oh, cool! Like it's super beat, and we can't sell it in the store." So I was like, "I'll take it."
I kind of expected Jason Blood to show up in that.
Man, if only. It's actually kind of disappointing. I've only read one Etrigan story in Brave and the Bold. There's 2 or 3 of them. I'm missing the other ones,
Mm-hmm.
but the one that I read was really disappointing. So as many praises I'm heaping on Bob Haney and Jim Aparo's work on Brave and the Bold, it definitely runs into a lot of issues that you would expect to see from it being a comic by a middle-aged white man in the 1970s. And by that, I mean there's a lot of, not a ton of, but enough uncomfortable moments involving race that make you go, "Ooh."
Really?
Yeah, basically it's Etrigan and Batman have an adventure in Chinatown, and it's real bad. real uncomfortable. One of those ones where I read 3 pages and I was like, I'm just gonna flip through and see if there's anything cool. Nope, just oof.
Things can get problematic in 70s comics real quick.
Really puts a damper on things. It's like, "Oh, the demon's here." And then I was like, "Oh no." A lot of uncomfortable talk about honor.
You know, Marvel was also in that book. Remember their villain Yellow Claw? Yeah.
Sir, that's Golden Claw now.
It's Golden Claw, sir.
Golden Chloral. But yeah, an absolutely bonkers tale of Batman, the Dead Man, Sergeant Rock, and Sherlock Holmes.
Because of course Sergeant Rock and Sherlock Holmes read it.
You need 4 heroes to take down the devil.
Yes.
Simple math.
I mean, especially if the devil's involved in voodoo.
And arson.
Yeah.
Simple arson.
Because I mean, that feels like. That feels like the bad guys in Die Hard. You know, they think that you've got this big agenda, this big political agenda, and it just turns out they're thieves.
Number 2 on my list. This one was very early in my read, and it's a story that I'm shocked has not been brought back into continuity. This is number 98. With The Phantom Stranger, written by Bob Haney, with art by the incomparable Carmen Infantino, one of my favorite DC artists of all time. In this story, so something I haven't mentioned about a lot of the structure of Haney's Brave and the Bold is that Batman tends to have a personal connection to the victims of a crime that draws him in.
Okay.
This one, his very close friend, Roger Burnham, who we've never heard of and have never heard of since.
Because, you know, Batman, he's got a lot of friends.
He dies.
He's a real friendly dude.
And he leaves behind a widow and a son, Enoch Burnham, who Batman reveals, "This is my godson." Batman's godson is only in this one issue, and it's a character I'm shocked has never been brought back.
And his name is Enoch?
Enoch Burnham. Like, he feels... it feels like the kind of pull Grant Morrison would have made during their run on Batman, you know?
Yeah.
Especially with this being a weird gothic horror story. Because the Phantom Stranger rolls up and is like, Batman, this death was not as it seems. The widow killed him. And Batman's like, what? That doesn't sound right. My boy Roger was in a happy marriage. And you can't trust that child. He's like, I can trust Enoch. He's my godson.
Man, leave it to the Phantom Stranger. Just walk right in, ruin mystery for you.
So Batman is walking through the spooky house because he's also like staying with the family after, like, through the funeral, and he sees a weird satanic ritual happening.
Oh my God, is this the Omen?
Just you wait, buddy. Oh boy. So he sees Enoch in the center of like a little pentagram, and there's like people chanting and stuff. He's like, what? And then he gets like knocked out and comes to later. And he's like, he takes Enoch to like a child psychiatrist, and he's like, he has no memory of these events, and he's saying they didn't happen, and he's telling the truth. And Batman's like, but I know, I saw it happen. And Phantom Stranger
Can't gaslight Batman.
And Phantom Stranger's like, there's a simple solution to this, Batman.
Oh, here
We
comes
must
the mystery
return.
destroyer.
So they go back and they fight some cultists. It turns out Enoch has an evil twin brother who is a demon. And this cult worships this demon who is in the body of Enoch's twin brother that his mom has groomed and has kept him a complete secret, swapping the two brothers out as necessary. And
this is the evil twin.
yeah, and so Batman's like, I'm gonna reveal everything, and there's like a big fight where he fights a bunch of cultists, and Phantom Stranger's helping him out, doing Phantom Stranger stuff.
Doing his Phantom Stranger thing.
And it all comes to a head when they're in the foyer. It's a standard rich people foyer, you know, where there's a door in front, there's two big staircases lead up to like a little...
Of course.
Yeah.
That's already in my head.
And there's a big painting. They're running from the top, like, they're running across the little balcony thing from one door to the other.
Right.
As they're walking past the staircase, the Phantom Stranger steps through the painting of Roger Burnham and surprises them that they trip and fall and both break their necks on the stairs. And Batman is like, Phantom Stranger, what happened? They broke their necks. And before Phantom Stranger can explain, Batman looks at the painting and goes, I guess the guilt from seeing her dead husband caused her to kill herself. And Phantom Stranger's like, yeah, that's what happened.
That's totally what happened.
So the story ends with Batman and Enoch burying his mother and his brother, and Batman saying, Enoch, I will watch over you for the rest of your life as your duly appointed guardian. And we never saw him again. I really want him to come back as a villain, you know?
That would be great. That would have been a better Hush.
Where is Enoch Burnham? Where is he? Let's get the hashtag going. Hashtag where's Enoch?
I mean, yeah, I'm gonna bust everything up. I'm more Damien than Damian Wayne.
The real Damien.
The real D.
But yeah, just
I'm gonna look more into that.
Yeah,
there's gotta
it's
be
a
more
great
references
issue.
to him.
Brave and the Bold 98. Look it up. Like, it's
How insane.
and this was like the second or third issue in my pile, and I was like, oh, I'm in for a good time with these. So Casey, I'm gonna give you a chance to try and guess who the surprise guest hero in my number one pick
Okay,
is.
so we got the 70s. We got Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a hint.
It is someone who is on this list. Like, they have been in a team up before.
Is it Deadman?
It's not Deadman.
Is it Demon?
It's not Demon.
Even though I know he's not been on the list.
You want me to just tell you?
Yeah, just tell me.
Sergeant Rock. But Sergeant Rock is not the part of this team up that's particularly important.
What
The
is?
Batman Sergeant Rock stuff is a B story. Because the A plot is about a group of terrorists who take Jim Aparo hostage and demand he draw Sergeant Rock killing Batman.
What?
So,
Is this some Earth Prime shit?
so the whole story is like, it starts off with Batman and Sergeant Rock teaming up, but then Sergeant Rock raises his gun and he's like, I can't stop. And it zooms out and Jim Aparo's like, no, I can't draw this. And there's a guy with a gun to him saying, finish it, Aparo. Kill Batman.
What is this nuttiness? Explain.
This one is a delightfully meta number 124. So not even super far deep into the run. Like, just less than 30 issues ago, we had Phantom Stranger killing a child. And now we've got we've got layers of reality as Jim Aparo has to go on the run to finish the issue and save Batman. Like he managed to dive out of his basement studio and is like finds a payphone. He's like, Bob, you gotta believe me. They're gonna kill me over it. And he's like, he's like, I left the script behind. I need to know how to finish the story so Batman can be saved. And so Bob Haney has to like quickly dictate him, and he's like writing notes and looking over his shoulder as the terrorists are chasing him. He has to like get on a speedboat and sketch it out while he's driving to a special cabin to finish the story.
Why are the terrorists so wrapped up in this?
Because they've got like this personal connection to Sergeant Rock, and they want to discredit him. So they want Jim Aparo to make Rock kill Batman and ruin his reputation forever. They don't really explain how they got to this plane of reality, but but when Aparo finishes the story, they disappear.
Ah, jeez.
And Bob Haney, and he's on the phone with Bob Haney in the secret cabin, and Haney's like, I got a great idea for our next Brave and the Bold epic.
You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where the monster is chasing all the knights, and then the animator has a heart attack halfway through it and stops the scene.
It's that. It's just a story that's so crazy out of left field, and like the cover of Aparo at his drawing board while this goon has a gun on him. Like
that is so meta. I can't believe that actually occurred.
I was shocked it happened in a 70s comic. Yeah. Like this is even bigger than Jerry Conway and Len Wein showing up in a parade in Justice League and in Avengers in the same month. Like, this is some next level Earth Prime stuff. And that was the book that actually got me to start collecting Brave and the Bold, which is, I saw the cover at work and I was like, is this for real? And I bought it and I flipped it. I was like, oh my God, it's really Jim Aparo drawing himself, and Bob Haney's there writing as himself. So, folks, once again, give us a subscribe, give us a like, donate to our Patreon maybe if you're into that. And if you want to hear me talk about more great Bob Haney books like Metamorpho. Shout out to Casey for getting me the t-shirt. Follow us on our socials. We got the Facebook, we've got the Instagram. Maybe someday we'll get a Twitter. Who knows? The future is malleable. It's hyper time, baby. We can do anything we want.
Just like that, we've altered our own reality.
And I think I've hit all the major bullet points for show closing. So once again, the the Brave and the Bold, Gideon Gonzalez
and Casey Johnson.
See you guys next time.